Hi guys, welcome back to my channel, Chronically Chlo. My name is Chloe and I am a 28-year-old single mother living with polycystic kidney disease. This is my first official video other than my intro, and so if you haven't watched my intro, polycystic kidney disease is a genetic disorder that is passed down on my mother's side that causes cysts to form in your kidneys, causing your kidneys to become enlarged over time, losing function, eventually leading to needing a transplant. So as of about a month ago, my kidney function has officially hit 19%, which puts me at stage 4 and qualifies me to be on the kidney transplant list and begin looking for a living donor. So I started this channel as a way to kind of document my journey to finding a living donor and what it looks like being added to the transplant list, as I have my transplant evaluations coming up in a few weeks. For this first video, I just wanted to kind of talk about my story so far, how I found out I was diagnosed with PKD and polycystic kidney disease, and kind of what my road has looked like dealing with this disease for the past 15 years, because PKD is a crazy disease and everybody kind of deals with it and has a different story dealing with PKD. It affects everybody differently. So this is just my story. I will be the 4th transplant recipient in my family. My mom had a kidney transplant about 2 years ago. She's doing great. So I am not alone in this. I've watched a couple other family members go through it. So kind of crazy, but it is a genetic disorder, unfortunately. So there's a number of us in our family that have it. So my polycystic kidney disease, I was diagnosed at age 13. I was in an actually a drug study for an ADHD medication. And when I would go for the monthly checkups, they noticed that my blood pressure was really high. And one of the side effects of kidney disease is high blood pressure. So wondering why a 13-year-old had adult high blood pressure, they sent me for additional testing, including an ultrasound. And at this ultrasound, I was in the room with my mother, and the ultrasound tech was scanning my kidneys, and at this time I didn't know that we had this family history of polycystic kidney disease and kidney failure. My grandfather died before I was born with kidney related issues, so I didn't know that that was the cause. And the ultrasound tech, while scanning my kidneys, looked at my mom, said, "Do you have kidney issues that run in your family?" Being 13, thinking suddenly that means like I'm gonna die, I started crying in the middle of the ultrasound, and my mom stopped the ultrasound, sent the ultrasound tech, probably very scared, out of the room to go get the doctor. And the doctor had to come in and diagnose me right then and there with polycystic kidney disease. So that's how I found out at the age of 13. And from then on, that's when I started my pediatric nephrology appointments, going to checkups, getting routine ultrasounds, and kind of just keeping an eye on my kidney function. My kidney function wasn't bad at that point. It was relatively okay. They just kind of watched the growth of my kidneys because they were enlarged. So I didn't have really any issues with them through high school. Other than like infections, because you're more susceptible to like UTIs and kidney infections. So after high school, I had my daughter at age 19. Pregnancies were not easy for me. I had my daughter at 19, my son at 22, and my pregnancies were considered high risk because of my PKD. So I had high blood pressure, risk for preeclampsia. I was hospitalized a couple times with both of them. Due to my blood pressure and migraine issues. So I was induced early with both of them as well. So after my son was born, at the age of 23, I decided to have my tubes removed as a preventative measure due to the risk that pregnancy causes to me with my kidney issues. So I decided that was the best choice for me and my lifestyle, that luckily I was able to have children young. It was kind of a blessing in disguise, because now, a little bit older, I wouldn't have been able to have them with where my kidney function is at. So after I had my son, I was about 23, 24. After I had my tubes taken out, is when my kind of chronic kidney issues began, and what I would call the saga of my football kidneys kind of started. So I've had multiple surgeries related to my kidneys. They've, over the last 4-5 years, caused quite a disruption to my daily life. And it all began not long after my son was born, when he's not quite 1 year old yet. I was at work, and I remember sitting at my desk, and at that time I was in the car business, and I had this sudden pain in my back, and it was like I felt like I had pulled a muscle. And so I walked over to a friend that I worked with at the time, asking her, hey, can you rub my back? I feel like I tweaked a muscle or something. And I had previously had spine surgery. At some point I'll make a video on the multiple surgeries that I've had, 10 so far in my lifetime, one of which spine surgery. So I thought I had pulled a muscle in my back, and asked her to like rub this spot on my back because she was a part-time masseuse, and she rubbed it and it didn't help, and that it just got worse. So I thought I had an infection, went to the ER, wasn't an infection, and the pain just kept getting worse and worse, and started wrapping around my side. So kind of started this long, drawn out events of going to the ER and doctor's appointments, where I ended up in the hospital, and they decided that my right kidney and the cysts on it had gotten so big that they were pressing on other organs and possibly had infections that were contained inside the cysts. So the antibiotics I was on were clearing out any infection in my body, but the cysts had isolated infections, and so they wanted to go in and drain these cysts through my back. So I had this surgery essentially where I was awake laying on a table on my stomach, and they used needles to go in through my back and drain what large cysts they could see through ultrasound, using a needle. It's called a cyst aspiration. So I think I was 24 when I had that surgery, and it was brutal. I remember just being in so much pain afterwards, going home and laying around for weeks, and then it not helping. So that then led them to decide that they needed to go in and do a bigger surgery where they would go in and cauterize my right kidney and take cysts off. And this is over the course of months of going into the ER and being given pain medication and being hospitalized because I was in so much pain that I couldn't work, and that just not being able to figure out how to relieve the pain, but also make room in my body for this giant kidney that is just pressing on all my other organs. So they ended up deciding they're going to do a full-blown surgery laparoscopically, where they would go in and cauterize my right kidney and take off as many cysts as they could. In that surgery, I think they took off 16 cysts on my right side. And I wish I still had the photos. I remember waking up from surgery, and all the doctors were standing over me, and they had photos lined down my body that they were looking at of the cysts that they had taken off of me. And they said that inside the cysts just looked like chocolate milk, because the infection essentially was just like so evident, and these cysts had grown their own infections essentially inside, which is just so bizarre. And so they took 16 cysts off my right side, thinking that that would help. Well, after recovering from that surgery, it still didn't help. I'm a relatively small stature. I was a little bit bigger at the time because I had just had both of my children not far from each other. but still relatively small. And I just didn't have room in my body I still don't, for these gigantic kidneys. And I'll put an image up of what my CT scans of one of my kidneys look like. So that meant that they were kind of out of options in terms of like cutting my kidneys down, because if like you can't go in and just cut a kidney that has polycystic disease on it, because there's nowhere to sew it up with these cysts. It's like you're cutting into a water balloon, it would just burst. There's nothing left to sew. So it kind of leaves them with no options. So then I went into trying other alternative options. I had another procedure done where they tried to go in and essentially fry the nerve to my kidney so I wouldn't feel it, because they thought, well, if we cut the nerve off, then you won't feel the pain, which also led to, well, then if something goes wrong, you won't feel the pain, and then you wouldn't know something was wrong, but it's worth the risk. So during that surgery, I was awake laying on a table again on my stomach, and they were going in through my back. And they were trying to, it's called a celiac plexus block. They were trying to go in and block the nerve to my kidneys so that I wouldn't feel them. And for some reason, my body reacted horribly to it. My blood pressure dropped to like 50/30. And I just remember saying that I was in pain, and then everything kind of going white. And when I woke up, I was flipped over, and they were working on essentially resuscitating me because they had me hanging upside down so all the blood would go back to my head. They had oxygen on me, and the anesthesiologist was trying to get me to come back around and wake up because I had essentially like just not coded, but my blood pressure dropped so much they were afraid I was gonna crash. So they stopped the surgery, and that's when the pain doctor that I was working with on that surgery that they had transferred me to from nephrology to pain to try and figure out how to fix this issue after the 2 previous surgeries had failed, said, I'm done. I'm not touching you anymore. I can't, this is too risky. We don't want to try anymore. So since then, because of that surgery, my blood pressure dropping so low, it caused actually like essentially my body to freak out. I got like the worst migraine from my blood pressure dropping so low. And then I had a horrible migraine. They thought because of that I had a brain aneurysm. I ended up back in the ER a couple days later after this procedure. It was kind of crazy. So this horrible migraine that I could not get rid of no matter what I did. Worst headache I've ever had in my life. I couldn't open my eyes. I was like in the fetal position for days. Got taken back into the hospital. They thought that my blood pressure dropping and all of this going on with this attempted nerve block gave me a brain aneurysm, because with polycystic kidney disease, that's one of the risks, is you can get brain aneurysm. So they thought all of this activity caused a brain aneurysm, and that's why I was having this horrible headache for days. So then I ended up back in the hospital, had to have a spinal tap, which if any of you have all ever gone through a spinal tap, it's like the worst experience of your life. That was horrible. And then, which caused further headaches because of whatever the spinal fluid leaking. And I was down for like a month because of all of this domino effect of migraines and health issues. So that was probably by far the worst experience health related wise. So anytime a doctor, a pain doctor, anybody brings up any type of nerve block or any type of like going in through my back and trying to like touch nerves or numb anything, I'm out. I don't want to do it. I'm good. Like I would rather deal with the pain. I have no, like, I'm out. I'm not having it. So that was a couple of years ago now. So since then, I've tried all kinds of different medicines, different therapies, whatever I could do in and out of different doctors' offices to try and deal with the pain that my kidneys being so big causes me. Because my function for the longest time was at about 30%. But my kidneys just were so big and they hurt so bad. I couldn't do physical activity. I couldn't chase my kids. I mean, at the end of the day, I was just in pain like no other. So it limited kind of my day to day and how long I could work I worked in a very demanding job. I worked 14, 15, 16-hour days at the time. And at the end of it, I was in tears most of the time on my way home because I just felt like I got hit by a truck. So I spent years balancing like medication and trying to figure out how I can do a work-life balance and have my PKD fit in, but not totally control my life. And it finally came down to my doctors saying, your last option is we can take one or both of your kidneys out and put you into complete renal failure so that you can be on the transplant list and then on dialysis and then find a donor. Or you can stay in pain and kind of manage this yourself until you need to be on the transplant list on your own. So about a year ago, I had said, I'm just going to deal with it. I don't want to have my kidneys removed because I had 30% function left. I thought I could make it. I was hoping I could make it a couple of years at least. In my mind, I thought I'd make it to like 40 on 30% kidney function. But so I didn't want to have my kidneys removed and throw myself into complete failure and need to be on dialysis, because dialysis is hard on your body. It's expensive. It's time consuming. And I want to avoid that. So in my mind, I was just committed to, I'm going to do whatever I have to do to manage this and make it as long as I can without having a kidney removed. Unfortunately, things didn't really go my way. So somehow over the summer, my blood pressure shot up. I didn't really know it. I woke up one day, a couple days before the 4th of July, actually, and my face had swollen up like a balloon. I looked crazy. My eyes were actually like bulging out of my eye sockets. And I just kind of knew like that doesn't look right. And so I went to the ER and my blood pressure was like 180 over 110. And I got hospitalized pretty quickly. And with that hospitalization, they realized my kidney function had dropped from 30% down to 22. And with that, I was hoping to kind of gain some of that function back. But then after they got my blood pressure under control and I redid my labs, I dropped down to 19, which then qualified me for the transplant list. So I have hit the level of being on the transplant list a lot faster than I thought I would. In my mind, I always thought I'll make it to 40, I'll make it to 50 before I have to actually deal with this. I'll deal with this when I'm older, when my career is where I want it to, when my kids are old enough to comprehend what's going on, when they can kind of understand it and are old enough to go through it with me. Because right now they're 6 and 8. They get it, but they don't get it. But I think every time you make plans, it's not worth it. Every time I make plans, they don't go the way that I want them to, which is funny because I'm OCD and I am a planner. So here I am. I'm 2 weeks away from my transplant evaluations, and I am going to begin looking for my donor, which is a crazy feeling. My hope is that I can find a living donor and stay on the transplant list and then transplant at the point where I would need dialysis so that I don't actually have to do dialysis, because I would like to avoid it. But again, I don't necessarily have full control over this. That's how my mom did her transplant. She was able to have a living donor lined up, and at the point where she probably would have needed dialysis is when they transplanted. Living donors, typically a living donor kidney will last almost twice as long as a cadaver kidney, and then they're more likely to succeed than a cadaver kidney. So again, I'm hoping to find a living donor so that I can continue living and taking care of my kids and building on my career, and we'll see what happens. My dog just jumped up. So that is kind of it for my first video. I will most likely make my next video about what my transplant evaluations look like. I have a schedule that they sent to me for my 2 days of evaluations. They start at 7 o'clock in the morning and go till 5 p.m., which is crazy. Doing these evaluations in the era of COVID is going to be really interesting because they kind of changed the structure of that a little bit. I'll probably tape a little bit of my evaluations as well, or parts of them, and just so you can see kind of what they look like in Nebraska. So also part of that is in Nebraska, the average wait list for a kidney is less than 2 years, which is great. It's shorter than the national average. Say hi, River. And then the med center here is great. That's where all of my family has had their transplants. There's actually a picture of me hanging in the pediatric center of the med center because from when... Okay, I get it. You want attention. Please lay down. So anyways, there's a picture of me hanging in the pediatric center of our med center from when I was a pediatric nephrology patient. So sometimes before COVID, I would always go down and visit my 14-year-old self hanging in the pediatric center and see if anyone realized that it was me when I'm in there. Every now and then when I would go and look, somebody would be like, "Is that you?" But I have like this, back from my scene days, my emo hair mullet and like really dark eyeliner, and it's a funny photo. If I can find a copy of it, I'll put it up. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video and me talking about my crazy journey so far with PKD. I am excited to share my transplant journey and journey to find a living donor with you guys. River is too. Say hi, River. Again, if any of this interests you, or you are also on the journey to find a living donor, transplant list, or post-transplant, I hope you'll give me a like, share, follow, or subscribe. I want to hear your story. I'm hoping to find some community in this. So I would love to hear from you, and keep an eye out for upcoming videos, and I will see you soon. River.